All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the ASAP Football Frenzy. I'm here today with Pride, who is making his second appearance here on the show tonight. Pride, how are you doing over on your side of things?
I'm good. I've been hearing a lot about the Chicago Bears game. Now, I didn't catch the end of it, but I don't know if these Bears fans are being sour about the L or if it was some real sideways stuff going on.
I don't know. But before we go into that game, man, there were a lot of upsets, games that, let's just say that not a lot of people expected.
Right.
Throughout this week.
Right.
Start off with we'll just skip Colts and Jets for now. Let's start off with the Giants and the Raiders. The one thing I will say about this game is that for whatever reason, the Raiders cannot beat the Giants when the Giants are the home team.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just weird. I've kind of noticed that too, where like
there's been a lot of weird, I would say, curses that I think throughout this week. I would say that even Jags and Bills, which I'll get to that in a second, curse related to the Bills. But it was just a weird game. I mean, the coaching, I guess. Spotlight over on the Spotlight Sports Network, he said it himself that if we, for somehow, manage to beat the New York Giants, then we're probably not going to have like a second half blowout. Second half, we're probably going to be a different second half team than the years that they have been in the past. But man, I just can't see it. I think that maybe they should probably get a different coaching staff in general.
I mean, my thing is when it comes to, and we're talking about the Giants, right? Like in terms of their coaching staff, is what you're saying, or
for the Raiders. I was talking about Raiders.
Well, for the Raiders, first and foremost, with the whole thing that they've kind of been through in the last month, right? Because it's been the last month they've been going through hell, right?
Yeah.
With John Gruden resigning. By the way, I will say this, and I mean this with every fiber of my being. John Gruden is not that good of a coach. He's a solid one, but he's not this elite guy that everyone wanted him to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think I'm in the minority. I think he's a solid coach who kind of talks himself up, which that's fine. If you want to talk yourself up, go for it, But I think that's where a lot of his mystique comes. When it comes to that, whatever coach they get, they need to understand something. They can... And maybe it's just me. I don't know if it's just the way I'm thinking about it, the way I'm seeing it. But this is a team. This is a very solid team.
It is.
Like, top to bottom, this Raiders team, they're not the best. But they're not the worst. They're a team that, like, if you have a solid coach, could make some legitimate noise. Like, I'm talking about like 13-5 type of team. This is the potential that this team has. You have in my opinion, a top 3 tight end in Darren Waller. I think he's the third best tight end in football.
One thing I will say about this team is that they don't have the same amount of energy at the end of the season that they do in the beginning. It's not even comparable.
I think that comes with coaching. Because here's the thing. If you have a coach that's going to like not only elevate you guys, but see when you guys are down, knows how to grab you guys and say, hey, look, focus on me. Come on, give me something. I think they'll be fine, right? Like, again, when you have the quarterback and Derek Carr kind of trying to rally the troops, it doesn't really work when everyone knows John Gruden wanted to get rid of Derek Carr. Like that, like when you want to get rid of that guy, and he's really the only guy who's kind of trying to bring everybody together and hype up the troops, it kind of brings this weird thing because it's like, why do I gotta listen to you? You know, like your credibility to be able to bring this team up is already shot when the coach doesn't want you. So I think the next coach they bring in is going to have to be a team guy, a guy who's going to come in, not only hold guys accountable, but at the same time can kind of vibe with them a little bit to try to rally the troops. Because like you said, their Achilles heel has been, forget a team, forget the Giants, their Achilles heel has been the second half of the season. So it's kind of like, you know, it's more along the lines of like, what's really going to happen? Like, come, let's say, well, next
it's more
week,
like,
right? Like,
just to give it an analogy real quick, it's more like they step on a rock, trip over a stone or something, and they just can't get back up.
and it's crazy because like it's like when they trip and fall, it's almost like while they're tripping and falling, the earth goes from here to here. So it's like, you know, it puts them in this rough position where like they keep falling and falling, and they don't really have. Now again, Hunter Renfrow has been stepping up a lot for this team, and so is Darren Waller. So maybe the players, more guys, instead of just Derek Carr telling them, "Come on, guys, we got it." You got more guys now with cachet that'll be able to say something, you know. But personally, a lot of the second half slumps, I do blame some on the players, but I do have to blame some on that coaching staff because when you see that slump, you need to be able to grab them and say, come on, I still need stuff. Don't give up on us now, especially considering every time the second half of the season is, they stumble, fall, get up, and all of a sudden they're alcoholics and they're drunk and they just start stumbling all over the place. And teams that they should have beaten, they're going to lose. Like, for instance, like if you're going to predict the Raiders' schedule, if the Jags are facing them in the second half of the season, it's a possibility that they're losing that game just because of the second half of the season.
Yeah, actually, let's pull up to a little bit of the Raiders schedule. The coming up the Raiders schedule. You have the Chiefs next week, which if things continue and they still lay flat on their face and all that kind of stuff, I can totally see the Chiefs end up winning this.
And dare I say, I do believe this could be. They could use that game. But the Chiefs, anyway, could use that bounce back game because they've been looking for that game for a while now. That game where they can kind of bounce back and show, yo, we're legit. The Raiders would be a perfect team to do it because, not only are these, if I'm not mistaken, they're in the same division, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not only are they in the same division, so it'll be a very important divisional game, but people thought in terms of, like, you know, like the final seeding, people thought they were going to be third in the division. You know what I mean? People thought it's either the Chargers are going to win this year or the Raiders. You know, after week 3, where you know the Chiefs will kind of look a little suspicious. So, if the Chiefs, this is a perfect game for the Chiefs for them to come out and have a "we're still here" type of game. You know what I mean? Like where they can kind of say, "Yo, look, I understand we look crazy right now, but that doesn't mean that we're that all of a sudden we're this garbage team that all of a sudden we can't compete because." You know, it's they got that, and if I'm not mistaken, the Chiefs are what? 4-4?
Chiefs and Broncos have the same record, which I believe that was 5-4.
5-4. Like, so for as horrible as they're playing, mostly their defense, they're still 5-4. They beat if they get the win against the Raiders, they go up to 6-4. All of a sudden, the rest of the season is looking a little different for them. So. This is definitely a very, very critical week for both teams because, again, if the Raiders want to still look like they have any type of legitimate hopes, they still need to go through the Chiefs. Even though the Chiefs are down bad, this is still a team that you still need to beat, especially with them being in your division.
Let's go ahead and transition and talk a little bit about the Jaguars and the Bills. I say that there is a little bit of this was a curse week because with this game and there were 4 games NFL history where one team was favored, like they were favored by the most. I don't know exactly how to say this record, but like they're favored by the most number of points against another team. Like they were expected to completely blow them out. And
Right.
the top 4 of those occurrences that have happened were all losses.
Yep.
And
I mean, look,
all of those were from Buffalo.
yeah, and look, this is my thing. People are looking at this game and saying now Buffalo Bills are, they're not good, right? And here's my rebuttal to that, where a lot of people kind of don't understand. Because look, football is a very hard sport to understand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The Titans lost to the Jets. They went on a roll ever since. Now, during the week that they lost, people were making jokes, but no one discounted them yet because they were like, look, let's see how they go the rest of the season. So my thing is like 9-6, it was horrible in every way, shape, and form. But at the end of the day, the way I kind of look at it is, how do they respond? That's going to be the big question, because remember, week 1, this Buffalo team got embarrassed by the Steelers.
Yes, they did.
Then they picked themselves up. And so my thing is, this was a bad loss. But if you really watch the game, it was really, to me, it just looked like the Bills got a little bit complacent and they didn't really care to play. Like they kind of was just like, we don't really care. It is what it is. And then as the time went on, all of a sudden they kind of were like, bro, we might actually lose this. And then as time went on in the fourth quarter, they were like, bro, we're actually gonna lose this. Like in the third quarter when no one scored, I was like, bro, this is looking a little suspicious, And then obviously the Jags got the field goal to end up making them win. But it's a tough loss. It's a brutal loss. Again, I'm very interested to see how they bounce back. Let's see where they go from here, what they do, all that stuff. But it was brutal, and the Jacksonville almost had a scare because Trevor Lawrence kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit, and they were like, "Oh, we don't know what's going on."
Next week they play the Jets, who I will say one thing about the Jets, even though they suck, and I'm not going to deny that. I mean, there's no way of denying it. They suck. Their 2 wins this season are against top teams in the AFC. So,
I mean,
3.
And that's the crazy part about the Jets. Like, now what I'm seeing is the way they're playing, and now it's everyone. They're playing this with reckless abandonment, where they're like, look, we're going to lose. We know that. But let's try to at least make it close. Let's try to not be embarrassed. Like
Lions.
That's kind of the vibe I'm catching from them. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, bro, listen, we gonna lose as long as we lose by within 10 points. I'll be able to sleep at night. That's how they're playing, and with I mean, hey, it's working for them because, like you said, they got 2 wins, against the Titans, who they're still a playoff team, and the Bengals, who still, regardless if you want to call them a playoff team or not, has still a very high-powered offense and a very good defense. It's like, this reckless abandonment. On top of that, look, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm being a cornball, but bro, Mike, they might have a problem. They might have to consider keeping Mike White, because I saw a little bit of rumors where they kind of want to roll with Mike White, and it's like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, you guys really are in a position to win.
Talking about the Jets and Bengals for a second, even though the Jets won, I feel like that game made 2 people on that Jets organization look terrible. I mean, not look terrible as in they suck or anything, but look, they might make them feel bad, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Zach Wilson.
Yes.
Because he was the starter. And B, the coach, Robert Saleh, because he's the one who started Zach Wilson all this time.
But here's the thing, like when you draft a guy like Zach Wilson, because you also need the reason I feel like they rolled with Zach Wilson and why I feel like when he's fully healthy, he will be the starter again. There's only one team on God's green earth who's been hyping up Zach Wilson like he's a freaking messiah, and that's the New York Jets. The New York Jets had the opportunity to get any other quarterback. They could have gotten, I mean, obviously outside of Trevor Lawrence, they could have gotten a guy like Mac Jones, or they could have gotten a guy like Justin Fields. They had that opportunity. My thing is, I think Zach Wilson has a problem. And his problem is everything. Like, right, he's just, and it's not just him. He's a bad quarterback right now who needs to develop, but unfortunately, you're now in a bad situation with a bad organization who's bad at developing. So it's kind of like the guy's in a situation where he's kind of screwed. But again, the Jets have been selling that this kid is a savior. Sam Darnold didn't work. This kid is better than Sam Darnold right now. That's what they said when they traded Sam Darnold to solidify Zach Wilson having the starting job. So it's like you can't hype this kid up and then all of a sudden
he goes down.
You know?
All of a sudden he goes down, and that proves exactly my point that I had said before the beginning of the season, and that was trading Sam Darnold was stupid.
I believe so. I think what it was they kind of, I think they panicked, right? Because they knew that Sam Darnold was going to get paid, right? And then in their minds, they're like, why do that? We're no closer getting to the playoffs, forget Super Bowl, but not even getting a wild card spot. They kind of panicked and was like, we don't want to lose him for nothing. And it's like, I get it, but now look at you. Like, you guys are in the same position. All you really did was if you wanted to save a couple bucks and you let him go, fine. But you guys are now still in the same position in terms of you're going to be last in the division. You're trying to get another high lottery pick.
I don't know if I agree about last in the division. The way that Miami's been playing, I don't think they are.
You don't think so?
I think Miami might take that last spot.
I think when it all plays out, I think Miami will be a game ahead of them. I think it'll be a game. Like, I think it'll be close. I really do. But I think it's going to come down to the Jets because I feel like Miami will be. They're more likely to get their stuff together than the Jets. I think they're more likely. But again, I mean, let's say they're third. Congratulations. You got rid of Sam Darnold to now move third. Still be horrible.
Yeah, still horrible. I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, you did all this stuff, and at best, you took, half a step forward? More than likely, you took a step to the side. So it's like, I look at it, and it's like, again, you guys wanted to save money, and I understand that. But now it's like you traded him. And, again, it's not leading us anywhere because, like I said, they basically said Zach Wilson is better when they traded Darnold and gave Zach Wilson the job. They basically automatically said, you're better. And it's like, not really. Like, and again, I'm a Sam Darnold guy. I love him, but he's not playing good, So it's kind of like, congratulations, you kind of just swap problems. That's all you really did, Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to get a good quarterback. You're really not. Like, the day in terms of developing, until they get a good coach, Robert Saleh, I like him, but I kind of like him more as like a coordinator, or like a special team.
Yeah.
Like, look, he's energetic, and I like that, but I don't know if the
something
way
that Denver doesn't have. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, right. So if you put him on Denver as like a special teams coach or like something like that, put him on the coaching staff because he's a guy that could rile guys up, but outside of that, it's like if you actually watch his coaching style, it's perplexing. He kind of does the same thing Joe Judge does. If you really watch it, it must be a New York thing because when you need to play aggressive, they play passive, and when you got to play passive, they play aggressive. It's this weird thing where like they must have been under the freaking Kyle Shanahan tree or something.
They're playing the whatever you need to do, they'll do the opposite kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, like there's times where it's like, yo, just run the ball, and they're still airing it out, and it's like, okay, congratulations, you now went 3 and out, didn't make a single completion, like now it's 4th and 10 on your own 20. Do you think running the ball kind of would have given you something? So at least you could have been like 3rd and 5 and done a play action. But to each their own, at the end of the day, the only thing I'm gonna give you a little pushback is I don't think the Jets are gonna look as stupid for getting rid of Darnold, only because now he's struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think they'll feel crazy later, because I think in a couple years when Sam Darnold gets comfortable with everyone, they can make the playoffs. I think this.
Yeah, I agree as well.
So I think that's when they'll kind of be like, "Damn, we kind of messed up, didn't we?" So.
But the one thing I will say about the Panthers, as they did lose to New England, it's not just that Sam Darnold hasn't been playing well. And I've said this about Chuba Hubbard. He sucks. He sucks as a running back. He can fly.
I wouldn't go as far as saying he sucks.
Okay, he can run, but he can't block.
Yes, no, definitely. My thing with Chuba Hubbard, and again, I like him. My problem with him is that if you really watch how he plays, he's not a starting back. He's not.
I would put him at like a 2 or a 3, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's a dude that would fit perfectly with
that. But my problem is they put him under McCaffrey, which again, that's a good to learn from. But McCaffrey gets hurt all the time,
and that's kind of my thing with Christian McCaffrey, where
it does give you a good learning experience, but
the learning experience only matters if he can implement all that stuff he's learning now. It's really all that, like, you know what I mean? Like, right now, they kind of need Christian McCaffrey. And this is what I said a couple weeks ago. And people got mad at me when I said this. But I'm like, bro, if you really sit down and think about it, the Panthers might have to switch to a running back by committee. They might have to do what the Eagles did a few years back and what the Niners are doing now. They might have to, because, look, we all know Christian McCaffrey is
and
super
what
talented.
the Niners did at their Super Bowl run.
Their Super Bowl run, yes. Like, their thing is, and look, I like Christian McCaffrey. I personally believe, it's hard to keep saying this, I thought he was the best quarterback. He's the best running back in the league. Now it's starting to get really hard to say that, because he's just constantly getting hurt. And I always say this, the best ability is availability. And you can have all the talent in the world, but if you can't put it on the field, that needs to matter. That needs to show, be a representation. That's what I'm saying. I think at this point, they probably should do a running back by committee. Like, they should probably really limit his snaps, let Chuba Hubbard kind of occasionally do his thing, and try to pick up a third back, or draft a kid who you think could be a third back, but the way I'm looking at it is like, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, look, on Sunday they gave him 14 carries, and I felt like that was 15 too much. Like, I was scared for Christian McCaffrey. I'm a Patriots fan, so I was chilling, but I was nervous. He had 14 touches. Chuba Hubbard comes back and he only gets 3. So it's kind of like I don't know if Chuba is a momentum back. I don't know if he's the type of guy who needs to, get touches so he can get more and more comfortable and more comfortable. I don't know if that's the case. It might be. It might be that he needs to need a lot of touches. I'm not sure, but my thing is, with Christian McCaffrey, you're gonna have to start protecting him. You're gonna have to, because it's getting to a point where, like, every single time the guy gets the ball, if you're a Panthers fan, you're wincing. And it's not looking good for them right now in terms of Christian McCaffrey, because eventually McCaffrey's gonna go down. Unfortunately, that's becoming the reality, because Like the guy just keeps getting hurt, and they kind of bet everything on
And
him.
I feel like running back by committee, I agree with you on that, but they need to be put under a more protected offensive line.
Yo, yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
I would do both because at the same time, if you do the offensive line, not only are you protecting Christian McCaffrey, but now you're protecting Sam Darnold.
Mhm.
You know, because the thing is, I always felt like you need to give Sam Darnold the opportunity for him to just relax and be himself. You know what I mean? There's still a few plays that you can blame on the line that they're kind of just letting him high and dry and leaving him to get where he's got to throw the ball to not get hit, and it ends up being an interception. So definitely that line, of course, but at the same time, it's just if you look at this team again, it's a solid team, really is. But again, I feel like what the problem with Sam Darnold is now he's going back to his old habits. He's trying to do too much too quick. He feels like he's kind of suffering what I call the Carson Wentz syndrome, where every pass needs to be a touchdown. Every pass needs to be that play. If ESPN is a top 10 at night, I need to be all 11 plays. Like that's kind of what Sam Darnold is doing. It's biting him in the ass right now. It really is. And I hope he can, understand that, not every ball is going to be a home run ball. Not every throw is going to be a touchdown pass. And hopefully one day he gets it. But right now, this team has a lot to think about, a lot of things they need to take into consideration because, again, defensively, this is a rock solid team. I really do like that defense. At this point, it's really the offense that's kind of holding them back.
Transitioning into a different game, which is actually usually my favorite game to watch out in the NFL because I grew up, raised in DFW. I've lived in DFW for about 17 years, and I've been rooting as a Denver Broncos fan ever since I started paying attention to football, which was since 2011. Well, Broncos ended up continuing their streak. Dallas has not beaten the Denver Broncos since the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't born yet in the 90s. Just saying something. I think, to tell you the truth, as much as exciting as it was to watch this, Denver end up completely dominating Dallas.
Mm.
I think the only reason why that happened is because Denver's offensive coordinator, I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, I think that if this game didn't happen and Denver ended up even pulling up the win, I think he would have been gone by today or tomorrow.
Oh, well,
I think an offensive coordinator position was be on the hot seat if Denver did not win this.
I think everyone's, aside from their defensive coordinator, I think everyone's job right now is in jeopardy. I really do. They started 3-0 and then they hit a slump, and I understand, because people say, "Oh my god," because it was fun for people to hate on the Broncos because the first 3 weeks, it really wasn't, nothing crazy, nothing to gloat about. But my thing was, at the end of the day, they were wins, and my whole thing was, week one they beat the Giants, right?
Yeah.
Which at the time, I wouldn't say they were bums. People kind of had some expectations about them, but that's neither here nor there. Week one, that's who they beat. When it came to week two, I'm trying to see. So they beat the Jaguars week 2, which again, I get it. And then week 3, they ended up beating the Jets, right? So they kind of was looking like that, right? Then came week 4, and you guys had lost. I just want to double check. So you guys
we had the biggest loss of the season,
right?
23-7 to Baltimore,
right? Which again, that's kind of my point. Like that was the biggest loss, right? Because you guys ended up 23-7. It was an ugly game for you guys. It just seemed like that game you guys never really got your footing, right? right? Like it kind of was just like,
Pat Shermer. That's the guy it was. I was forgetting Pat Shermer's name. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. He's not very great coach anyways.
But yeah, so you guys ended up losing to the Ravens, which again, you and I both agree that kind of was their biggest loss. It was a very critical loss. Then they go to the Steelers. They lose to the Steelers, but 27-19. If you really watch the game, the Broncos had their chances. They really did. Like it's not like it wasn't like
they just couldn't capitalize at the end.
So they had their chances, and then week 6, I think it was the Raiders, which 34-24. But remember, towards the end, you guys recovered the onside kick. That ended up scoring. So it was like if you guys did another onside kick and scored, it's OT. So it's like, again, and even before then, you guys had chances. So everyone's kind of poo-pooing on the Broncos. And my thing was, bro, look, a couple plays here and there, and we're looking at a team that potentially could have 2 more wins on their record. Like a couple plays go their way, they beat the Steelers, and same thing with the Raiders. So it's like, I don't understand.
I think they would have. I think if everything went their way towards the end, they would have been a 8-1 team.
You can make the argument. You really can.
Because of the Browns. It was pretty much the same thing as well.
Right.
So the only true loss that we would have had would be the Ravens.
Right, was the Ravens. And every other game. And again, this isn't to say that, to try to make excuses for the Broncos, because at the end of the day, they are L's. But the point I'm trying to make is they were a close game and they had their chance. So to just poo-poo on them, I feel like is very unfair. And I feel like they this was I don't want to say it was a statement win, but it was a win showing them that, like, look, we're just because, we went 3-0, I understand they were garbage teams. That does not mean we ourselves are a garbage team. Like, in my opinion, the Broncos are a solid middle-of-the-pack team.
I'm going to pull up the rest of their schedule, looking at that real quick.
So I actually have it right now. So let's see. So we're in week 8, right? No, week 9.
Yeah. So I have it too. I'm looking at the rest.
Yeah. So
they
got Eagles.
I'm just going to go as far as to say this. There's only 2 more games on their schedule where I actually think that they're going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see, I think every single one of these games, except for maybe, and that's a big maybe, the Raiders one, could be a winnable game.
Yeah, like I'm
very
looking
winnable.
I'm looking at it now. Like, so next week you guys have the Eagles, which
that's one of the 2 I was talking about. I definitely think we're going to win next week.
That's a very winnable game. And then I believe you guys are on your bye week after that.
Yes, we are.
So you guys are in week 11 bye week. Week 12, you guys come back, and you guys play
the Chargers,
which I think the Chargers will win.
I think so too, but I have noticed something off about the Chargers.
They have been.
Yeah.
They have been. So even though I think the Chargers will win, it's not going to be a rout. And the Broncos will have opportunities to catch.
Looking at, like, the comment, and I know this is a bad thing to go off of, I get that. But looking at, like, common opponent, we beat the Cowboys, who beat them. And the Chargers had more of a blowout against the Baltimore Ravens than we did.
Yeah, 100%. And but at that week 13, you guys play the Chiefs, which I think the Chiefs will win. I think it'll be a close one though.
Yeah.
Week 14, you guys play.
You play Detroit.
You guys play Detroit, which is a win.
That was the second win.
That's the second win. Yep, that's a win. Week 15, you guys end up playing the Bengals, which I think that's going to be a loss. I think so.
I do too.
Week 16, you guys end up playing. I gotta find it. It doesn't say anything. Oh, you guys play the Raiders, which I think you guys, especially after what happened the first time, I think this will be a very winnable game for you guys.
Ooh, I didn't expect. I mean, losing Henry Ruggs, then yes. If they don't really have a true number one receiver, I get they have Waller, I get that. But if they have a true number one wide receiver by that time, by signing and things like that, then I don't. But then yes, I can see the Raiders lose that one.
Yeah, right. So it's the Bengals. So that's one. 2 games with the Chargers and 2 games with the Chiefs. So of their last few games, 5 of them are against. Those are going to be like their 5 hardest games. So it's like you beat the Eagles, you beat the Lions, you split the Chargers, split the Chiefs, and then you beat the Raiders. All of a sudden, you know, the season's looking different. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. You were a little nicer on them than I am.
Oh, no, but my thing is, I still give them a chance because I still respect them.
I'm giving them a chance in every single
exactly.
Schedule, but I can't. I don't think it's gonna happen.
Right, but my thing is like people are acting like this is the Lions, and they have no chance, you know. And my thing is, hold on, this is still a solid defense. This is an offense who's shown you they can occasionally turn it up. So it's like, you know, they have some of the pieces, and a lot of people think they're a quarterback away from being Super Bowl contenders. Some people genuinely believe that. So it's like, you know, I'm not gonna poo-poo on them or anything, you know what I mean? But I mean, them beating Dallas, it was a very good win for them, and it was a good win to kind of show around the league to a couple of the QBs who are potentially moving next year. Hey, look, imagine if you were here. Weirby would be a hell of a team. You know, like if they're looking at an Aaron Rodgers or maybe if Deshaun Watson, that whole thing ends up going away. You know, like they're kind of showing other teams like, hey, look, you know, we won, and you know, don't forget about us. We're a solid team, and you know, any quarterback who's with us would love to be here. So that's kind of where I stand on that whole thing. It was a good win for them. Was a good win. I liked it. People think it was a statement to make them go into the playoffs. I think it's more of a statement of the future in terms of if they can get any quarterback to come to them, you know, they can say, hey, look, imagine if you were here. You know, our things could be different. We had some talent to surround any quarterback with. So,
yeah. You know, we do have about 30 minutes left, so we'll spend the rest of the show making picks. So to start us off, I have to brag about something. I am still heading into week 10 undefeated for Thursday night football games.
Wow.
9-0.
And this one's gonna continue because I think you would
Ravens.
there's the Ravens and the Dolphins. So
it's the Ravens and the Dolphins. Like,
yeah, so we both agree the Dolphins are gonna win, right?
Yeah.
I just. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's the Ravens. Look, the problem that the Dolphins really have, not only defensively but offensively, the problem really comes to. I know Tua said he feels like the organization does not want him. That can't be true. Like, he must understand, you know, like, these guys still don't really want me. And I kind of feel for him in a way because, bro, eventually, like, Tua's he's one of the few quarterbacks I know who can go 39 for 40 for 400-plus yards, 5-plus touchdowns. They'll somehow lose the game because the defense blew it. And instead of saying that defense blew it, They go, oh, well, Tua went 39 for 40.
I will
Oh,
say
he missed that one pass. Like,
I will say one thing about this. For some whatever reason, we have seen Lamar Jackson and that Raiders offense seem to come back from games that they should have, like they were down double digit and they ended up coming back from games that they shouldn't have. I have a feeling that this might be one of those.
no, I don't think so.
I don't think it's gonna be like, hey, you're trailing by 3 touchdowns. No,
Right, and you're probably thinking like 10 to 13 points.
10, at most maybe 15.
Okay, yeah,
Most.
well, I don't think so. I really don't. When it comes to this Dolphins, unless this Dolphins offense comes out hot, which I don't believe they will. I really don't, especially considering that granted, they just beat the Texans 17-9, so maybe that's a possibility coming off win. But I don't know. I don't really see it. I think the Ravens just cruise and they just get the solid win. That probably, like, in terms of overall scoring, we'll probably have one quarter where the Dolphins probably score like a field goal more. But overall, I just think the Ravens are just gonna they're gonna put it in cruise control after halftime and try not to mess it up.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Next up, you have the New Orleans Saints who play the Tennessee Titans. Unless I will say this, Trevor Siemian, I don't think he's starting next week. You have Trevor Siemian, Taysom Hill. Trevor Siemian, after the performance that he played last week, that terrible performance against the Atlanta Falcons, I don't think he's going to start.
My thing is, he almost has to.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I say that is because the thing is with Taysom Hill, he's best used as a guy who you can put at running back one play. And the next play, you can put him at wide receiver. And the next play, you can put him at quarterback. And the next play at tight end. That's where he kind of fits best. So if you put him at quarterback, you are limiting him. But at the same time, in my opinion, he's a better quarterback right now than Trevor Siemian. So it's like the Saints are kind of in this weird position where they're like, he is the better quarterback, but are we willing to sacrifice that and give up everything else he brings up? Like, that's kind of a conversation they need to have. Like, this is one game I will not touch. In terms of betting, I will not touch this game because the amount of unknowns here is too much. Obviously we have the quarterback issue with the Saints, but the Titans, their most important position, running back, their best player is out. So it's like, it's like what's really going to happen?
I think this game's going to be going, no matter who wins, I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be really a battle of the defenses, and whoever has a better defense wins the game. That's why I'm pulling the Saints.
You going Saints?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm going to go.
I'm going to go Saints. I'm going to go Saints 10-3.
I'm going to go Titans.
Mm-hmm.
I
can see that.
The only reason I'm going to go Titans is because I believe A.J. Brown will play, and so will Julio. Even if one of them is out, I think Ryan Tannehill will be okay with it. I think it's going to be like 21-10. I think you will see a rushing touchdown, probably from Adrian Peterson. I think Adrian Peterson is going to be like the third down back, which kind of makes some sense. That way, you're not overly relying on him because, a lot of people don't understand. This isn't the Minnesota Vikings. This is Adrian Peterson who was chasing the the record of a few years back when he had Christian Ponders as quarterback. That's not who this is. This is a 36-year-old guy who is basically even older. He's basically almost a 40-year-old in terms of football because of all the injuries. It's the reason why nobody signed him. So they're probably going to use him more as a third down back. And I'm very worried about the game. I'm going to go Titans 21-10. I just feel like if you have Julio or A.J. Brown, you should be able to get a touchdown. You should be able
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, again, maybe I'm doing too much. Maybe I'm putting too much faith in this offense, but
my concern is really not on the offense. It's more on what defense they're going to face. You don't have Derrick Henry out there in the backfield. He's hurt. He's not going to put up the amount of rushing yards. And I might be a little bit biased on that. I will say that because I do have the Saints defense on fantasy. But with that being said, I just really concerned about that team going up against that defense.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the Tennessee defense doesn't have to be phenomenal. They just have to be opportunistic. And as long as they can do that, I think they'll give the offense opportunities. Because, again, they don't have to really play all world level because, again, more than likely Trevor Siemian is going to end up starting. And if he starts, I mean, we don't – you know what I mean? Like, he's a backer for a reason. So it's like, you don't have to play all world, and this will be the best chance the Titans have to kind of stat their defensive their defensive stats. You know what I mean? Like, pressure him some, get a couple stacks, get like a pick or two, and kind of bolster up their defensive rank because going into the regular season, I thought it was going to be a very opportunistic defense. I didn't think they were going to be great, but I didn't think they were going to be bad either. I thought they were going to be kind of average. But yeah, but I agree with you. Both defenses, they're going to have to step up, and whichever defense can make the most plays, that's really going to come down to the game.
Next up is the Bills and the Jets. I think it's going to be the Bills, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think even though I think that this is going to be a bounce back game and where the Bills might put up 35 on them because of what happened last week against the Jaguars,
no one's going to care.
I could see the opposite being true as well.
Nope.
No, not the opposite as in the Jets put up 40. No, I'm
saying you're talking about the opposite as in the Jets winning.
No, I'm not even saying that. Ooh. I'm saying keeping it close, low scoring. Opposite.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Well, maybe like a 21-20, something like that. I can see that being true as well.
This right here is,
but I don't think so.
Yeah, this is where the Bills, because this is one of my biggest. This is the only knock I have about the Buffalo Bills. They don't run the ball. That's the only knock I have about them. This is their opportunity to get a run. Try to solidify something. Like I said, it's a great bounce back game. After what just happened with the Jags, that whole thing. They're going to have to come out and drop 40. They're going to have to do 40-0 on these Jets, bro. Like, they're going to come out. They're going to be furious, and they should be. They should be mad at themselves. If the Bills don't score anything over 30 and the Jets somehow score anything over 10, people are going to start looking at the Bills very differently.
35-17 for them. That's the score I have.
Huh?
35-17. Bills. That's the score I have.
If they can drop, the Jets can drop 17 if the Bills score 40 plus. Until then, they can't, because again, people are going to look at them different. People are already looking at them different from this loss. So that's really, it's kind of tough. They're in a weird position where it's a bad team, but they have to go out and mollywop them. They have to, because if not, people are going to be like, oh, yeah, those Bills are not really about it or whatever. So
Yeah.
I expect a rout. I expect it to be over by halftime. And if not, then the Bills are gonna have to kind of grit their teeth because week 11 they play the Colts, and if they can make a statement then, but I don't know. I do expect them to win wholeheartedly.
Next up, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're home against the Detroit Lions. If the Lions don't get a win either here or when they have the home game against Minnesota, I cannot see a win. I don't see a win at all on this team.
I'm there with you because they're again they have another they got the Steelers, then they got the Browns. After that, they got the Bears, which honestly, I think the Bears they could potentially sneak the game there.
I could see it too. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
And then 13th, they had the Vikings, like you said. After that, they got the Steelers again, which I think
they got the Steelers this week. They're not in the same division. They had the Broncos after the Vikings.
No, I'm looking at the Vikings one. That's what I'm looking at. My bad. So they got the Broncos. Yeah, they got the Broncos, which I don't think they're winning. Not to be mean to them or anything, but I don't think they're winning. Then they got the Cardinals. Definitely not winning that one.
Yeah, that's going to be like a 50+.
And then the Falcons, who are somehow 4-4. I don't know how that happened, but I don't think
they're 4-4 and in the playoff picture.
That's crazy. I don't think they're winning that one. Which, again, then they got the Seahawks. Mind you, it's going to be the Seahawks with Russell Wilson back. So if it was Geno, I would give him a chance possibly, but. And then the last game of the year, Packers. Now, they might be able to beat the Packers if the seeding is locked up and they bench like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. If they bench them and kind of don't really care about the game, maybe. But that's something we got to see. But as of right now, their most winnable games right now, I have one, the Bears, and then right behind them, the Steelers game, and then the Vikings. And that's really it. If they can't sneak a win, like you said, bro, I agree with you wholeheartedly. If they don't win any of these two games, well, we can't say that because this week just showed you that we can't say that because So we're saying this stuff, and I literally just forgot that, bro. So many upsets that happened, so. It's but yeah, no, I'm with you. Statistically speaking, like the comfortable bet is if they don't win any of those 3 games, they're looking at an offer, and it's not looking good for them.
I think they have a better chance at beating Minnesota than they do against Pittsburgh, but everybody else on the schedule is going to be harder.
100%. Like me personally, I think you could flip it. The Steelers and the Vikings, you could flip that if you want.
Yeah,
100%. The Bears, the Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are the 3 on the schedule. After that, it doesn't get better. It really doesn't. So they need to win this game.
Up next is the Indianapolis Colts versus Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going with the Colts on this, but I will say this. If the Jaguars were at home, going off of known history, I could see the Jaguars winning that.
I don't think so.
Going off of known history, that's why I'm saying that. Because the Jaguars have won at home the last 6 seasons.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm going with Colts.
I'm going with Colts too, but that's only because they have their home field advantage.
No, I disagree. Even with even if it was in Jacksonville, I would still favor the Colts. I wouldn't favor them as heavily though, but I would still favor the Colts.
Yeah. Next up is the Washington football team. They play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is gonna be. I think this is gonna be a weird game. To be honest, I think this I'm just gonna give out the score real quick that I think that's going to happen, and I'm gonna say 37 to like 28. I think Washington for somehow manages to put up 4 touchdowns on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but loses.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I think at the end of the day, I do have. It's just look. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean because I had high expectations on this Washington football team, but for some reason, kind of the same thing with Miami. They just haven't been able to do anything. They haven't been able to do it. I don't know what it is. The defense that we expected to be so great is kind of choking.
I had high expectations on defense. I didn't have high expectations on Heineke, though.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm going to because
yeah,
defense kind of has been choking, and Heineke has kind of been doing this thing.
Low expectations either because we only saw one game out on him, and before that, no, not even the XFL had film on him, and he was like the backup quarterback over there. So. Yeah, nobody had film on him until since college.
Right, and that's the thing. Because the thing is, even with that college play, you do see improvement from that college film. So it's not like you can just keep going off of that. So I had high expectations for their defense. I thought their defense was gonna bail out the offense. It just looks like now there's the offense is doing its thing, and it's just the defense that just keeps choking. So. Yeah. With that being said, a defense that hasn't been great this year against a very high-powered offense, I expect it to be great. But at the same time, remember, if I'm not mistaken, the Buccaneers played the Washington football team in the wild card game last year.
I made it
pretty close. He made it pretty close. So I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden he can do that again to keep it close. I still have the Buccaneers winning, but don't be surprised if the Washington football team can keep it close.
I have the Bucs winning by 9.
So, but yeah.
Next up actually is the Cleveland Browns and the New England Patriots. I have New England in this. Somehow,
yeah. Now, look, I shouldn't talk about this one because I'm biased. I'm a New England Patriots fan, so if you were to ask me, we were going 17-0.
Only thing about this I would say is, Cleveland released Odell Beckham Jr. and for whatever reason, they dropped 40 on Cincinnati, who's been so far having a better season than New England. I can see the Browns this going either way, but the way that things have been going even with the upset over the Chargers, not really an upset for me, but the upset for the Chargers. And the Panthers game, I could see them continuing on their streaks. Maybe they just had a struggle at the early beginning, and maybe they're pulling it off, taking a wild card spot. Who knows? But I have New England on this one, but this is probably the one where I would be the least surprised if I get this one wrong.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be close. I really do. I think it's gonna be a close, low-scoring game.
27-24.
I got it lower than that.
For both teams?
For both. I think it'll be like a 21-17 type of game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It always going to come down if they can establish the run game. And,
yeah.
That's what it's going to, because we have won games with Mac Jones kind of just doing the bare minimum, and if we can do that again, I'm good.
All right. Next up is the Falcons and the Cowboys.
I got the Falcons for the upset.
Wow.
Yeah. I got the Falcons for the upset. I'll be honest with you.
Wow.
It's a litmus test for the Falcons. I think they might be able to. I think.
I have the Falcons getting toasted.
You got the thing is, I can see it one of two ways. Either the Falcons getting destroyed beyond repair, or the Falcons win a nail biter. Like, that's kind of what I see. I'm going to go with the Falcons barely. I've been really impressed this year by the Falcons. They should not be 4-4. They've been gritty.
No.
They've been gritty. Obviously, Kyle Pitts has kind of been doing his thing, of course, but Cordell Patterson.
They haven't. I will say this: they haven't won. Like all the games that they've won are teams that they should have beat.
Right, and again, that's kind of look. I may sound crazy for saying that. I might sound crazy, but I don't know, man. Just seeing how this Falcons team is clicking, 4-4, really not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering that people had them in the bottom of the teams. You know what I mean? Like, people thought it was going to be them and the Houston Texans fighting for the worst record in all of football.
I didn't have them that low.
A lot of people did.
I had them more like taking the 10th or the 11th spot.
Yeah, a lot of people had them that low. They just won a game. They just beat the Saints, which I think it was like 27 or 25, something like that. It was close. It was like 2 or 3 points they beat them by. I think with that momentum, they might be able to bring it into this Dallas game. Maybe, but as of right now,
I'll be right back real quick.
All right, take your time. But I'm gonna go Falcons on a leap of faith. Mike, fucking Rob. But I really do. I feel like if there's gonna be a massive upset, I think this will be that game. I really do. I believe that the Falcons have the potential to upset them, especially coming after the win and all that stuff. So maybe. But
I went to go put a dog into the bed, so that's what I was doing.
You're good. But if of all the games here, I think the one upset that can legitimately happen would be Falcons over Cowboys. So I'm gonna go with that. I know I'm gonna regret it later. I know it. I know I'm gonna regret it later. But I'm going Falcons. F it. I'm going Falcons. Whatever happens, happens. But like I said, this can go one or two ways. The Cowboys kind of just making the Falcons.
My upset's later down the line. So it's not this next game, but this next game I'm going to talk about is the Carolina Panthers. They play the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals are the home team. I don't even see the Carolina Panthers putting up 10 points. I can't even see that.
I think they put up 14.
I see.
Darnold throws a touchdown, and then Christian McCaffrey runs for one. But even
I see 35-3. This is going to be nasty.
Think so?
Yeah, it's going to be like.
Yeah, I'm just very concerned with all their injuries and stuff. I am concerned for them. My thing is, we'll see what happens. We will see. In terms of Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray probably won't. Well, I'm not gonna say probably won't, because I know he's got an ankle injury. They still don't know if he's gonna play, so they're kind of wondering about him. People say, "Oh my God, Colt McCoy turned back the hands of time," and it's like, I get it, but do you really want to rely on Colt McCoy for a couple more games?
Yeah, I can see that.
You know what I mean? That's kind of the issue for me. A lot of the injuries that they have aren't really, they're not really. Oh, he teethed himself or whatever. DeAndre Hopkins, he's got a hamstring injury, and that's bad.
One thing I will take notice there. Do you think that Cliff Kingsbury should be given more credit than what he has been getting because of that game?
I think so. Well, even before this game, I think he should. I really do, because you're looking at a coach who, like, and Cliff Kingsbury, he's not the GM, but I'm pretty sure he can try to recommend people. I'm pretty sure it was his recommendation, and him and Kyler Murray talking, saying, let's go get D-Hop. And not only getting D-Hop, integrating him perfectly into the offense, helping Kyler Murray develop into an even better quarterback. I think he deserves a lot of credit. Credit that I don't know why he's not getting. Because if it was any...
I wasn't at first. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't giving him the credit at first because he was like a rookie. Rookie head coach. So
his rookie year, if you don't want to give him the credit, I understand that, because you're not sure. For all we know, this team could have just happened to click.
But I wasn't doubting him either.
Right. So, my thing was, as I started looking, he's developing Kyler Murray. And dare I say, without Cliff Kingsbury, I don't know if Kyler Murray takes the extra step we've seen him take this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he takes that. Not to say he's horrible or anything, but Cliff Kingsbury helped him unlock something. And obviously having D-Hop helps immensely. But again, you have D-Hop, and then you have AJ Green on the other side to be able to use both of those guys. And now they got Zach Ertz. It takes a very savvy head coach to be able to do something like that, to make sure everyone gets touches. And on top of that, have a good run game on top of that, which is kind of weird because James Conner really wasn't a running presence in Pittsburgh. Here, he's not the best, but he's serviceable. He kind of does, he does enough where you have to respect him and you have to pay attention to him. So when it comes to me, the way I'm looking at this, man, it's Cliff Kingsbury does deserve some respect. He does deserve some. I don't want to say it's all him, because at the end of the day, Kyler Murray, the kid's a talent. But I do think he deserves some credit because, like I said, I don't know if Kyler Murray takes this mega step so early in his career if it wasn't for Cliff Kingsbury. I do think he eventually takes the step, but this early, I don't know if he does without Cliff Kingsbury. And like you said, he made Colt McCoy look great, he kind of made it turn back in the hands of time and all of that stuff. He played a good game, and I think at this point, a lot of people were questioning Cliff Kingsbury, and they were kind of putting him in the category of a Kyle Shanahan, a guy who's like, we're kind of overrating him a little bit. That's kind of the category that they were kind of putting him in. And now he's kind of, saying, look, I'm a damn good head coach. Like, I'm a great head coach, dare I say, and, I do think he deserves credit. I think he's a good head coach. And I think now he's proven to everybody that, sure, it looked like at the time a risk to give him the head coach job, but now it was clearly the right
Yeah,
choice.
it was. Going into this next game, which is my upset, I have the Minnesota Vikings, beating the LA Chargers. Chargers are the home team.
So this was your upset.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
So my upset was the Falcons. That was my upset. My thing with this one, I get why you would think it'd be an upset because, I understand it. It being in LA, though, like...
If it was the Rams... If it was the Rams, then no. I get where you're going at, but I'm not talking about the team. I'm talking about the fans. Because I feel like there's more Rams fans out there than there are for the Chargers.
So if I could call this like a basketball thing. The Chargers are the Clippers, and the Rams are the Lakers. It's
Yeah.
basically weird. Okay, I do get that. But I don't. I think they have enough of their own fans that it will kind of, override it some. I will say this: if it was in Minnesota, this probably would have. I would have probably had 2 upsets. But it being in LA, I'm gonna give the Chargers the benefit of the doubt. I might be a little biased because I have Austin Eckler on my fantasy.
So do I.
He's been at first he was giving me like 25, 30 points, and I'm like, God bless this man. Now all of a sudden he's like,
I mean, I have Austin Eckler on my fantasy, but in the same roster I had Adam Thielen as well. So,
ooh, so you're kind of in a conundrum. But
yeah,
but not me. I'm gonna give it to the Chargers. I think it'll be 28-25.
I'm gonna go same score but flipped.
Minnesota. Okay.
Minnesota wins this one 28-25.
Okay. I think it's gonna be close though, coming down to like the final wire.
All right, next up is actually the Seahawks. They play an away game against the Green Bay Packers. Probably going to be Jordan Love led, and Russell Wilson's coming back. So everybody knows what my answer is going to be. Even though I cannot stand this team, one bit. I gotta pick them. Seattle Seahawks.
Packers. Yeah, I'm with you, Packers. I'm kidding. If Aaron Rodgers plays, I'll go Packers. But if it's Jordan,
if Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I'm going with Packers. If Aaron Rodgers plays,
but like you said, if it's Jordan Love led, especially with Russ coming back,
so
it has to be the same.
Last time you were on,
yes, sir.
I gave a quote that Jeremy Green brought up. He actually said today that the only quarterback in NFL history that was worse than Jordan Love is Sir Marcus Russell.
I feel bad though, because the thing is, Jordan Love. This is the thing people don't get, because I've seen that, right? Like I've seen that people say that the only quarterback I've ever seen worse was Jamarcus Russell, right? I feel bad for Jordan Love. I really do, because he was thrown in a situation he was not prepared for. He doesn't get. I
totally agree with you on that.
You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't get the first team reps. This kid wasn't you know what I mean? Like, they're still trying to develop him. They threw him in there blind, deaf, and dumb, and were like, go figure it out. I feel bad for the kid. I really do. Aaron Rodgers, he did what he did. I'm not going to harp on it. I'm not going to harp on it right here. I will say what he did was stupid. I will say that. But
I agree with you on that too.
Yeah, but again, I don't want to, change the topic. When Aaron Rodgers did what he did, right? When he ended up he ended up catching COVID. Immediately, it put Jordan Love in this weird thing where it's like, okay, make sure you don't fuck it up for Aaron. And it's like, that's not what that kid needs right now. It's like if he messes up one time, they're gonna kill him. They're gonna slaughter the kid for no reason whatsoever.
Now I'm kind of wondering if this continues and he starts losing by bad numbers and bad games and bad formats. I'm kind of wondering why. That's probably why Aaron Rodgers lied. No, I'm kidding. But on a serious note, I agree with you on this whole he's been thrown into the wolves without any equipment or without any training or anything. I'm not saying he's been coached, but he's just been coached in a bad way, in a bad position.
Because the thing is they're not coaching him like he's Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to coach him as if he's living the second coming of freaking, second coming of freaking Aaron Rodgers. And it's not fair to the kid.
Yeah.
because that's not who he is. I do feel bad for him.
Going from one back coaching situation to a team that I think has their coach that should have their head coach be on a hot seat is actually Nick Sirianni with the Eagles. They are up next against the Denver Broncos, and honestly, if Philadelphia can figure out how to run the stinking football, I think it's going to be a close game.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos still win it, but I think it's going to be a close game.
Right, but here's the thing.
Otherwise, you're going to have another 30-0 or something like that. If it's relied heavy on Jalen Hurts' arm, then I don't see it in being well. You're going to have more pick sixes than touchdowns.
Look, yeah, I got the Broncos here. If the Eagles can establish a legitimate run game, and when I say by legitimate is like if they're running the ball and they're just getting stuffed, it won't matter. They need a legitimate run game. If they can do that, they have a chance. But I'm definitely gonna go Broncos because I think the Broncos right now were.
I'm pulling up real quick Eagles' old schedule, like the schedule that they played last 2 weeks. They had the Chargers. They lost by 3.
Yep.
It was a close game. Heavy on the run.
Yes, very heavy. 2
weeks ago, Eagles were again heavy on the run. Well, actually, double checking that real quick. Yeah, they were very heavy on the run. Jalen Hurts, 7 carries for 71 yards. It was very run heavy.
And 2 weeks ago was against the Lions, right?
It was against the Lions. That is why they were able to put up and beat them by 30 plus.
Yeah. And again, that is true. Like, they do need to utilize the run, and again, not really utilize it. They need to establish it, and they need to be good at it. Once they do that, they'll be able to put themselves in a position where they can win. But again, the question is, once they get stopped 2-3 times in a row, is Nick Sirianni going to panic and go, okay, now we need to start airing the ball out? That's really the question that's going to be asked because the Broncos they're going to stop some run attempts. Let's call it what it is. They're going to stop a good amount of run attempts because, again, this is a very solid defense. When that happens, is Nick Sirianni going to panic and go, okay, we got to start airing it out? Like, that's really the question because the thing is, if you want to switch the pass for a bit, that's fine, but you're going to need to go back to the run game. The question is, will he do that? He's been doing that the last 2 weeks. He has been. Even though they lost against the Chargers, like you said, it was a close game. If I'm mistaken, I think it was like 27-24, something like that.
It was 27-24, yeah.
It was a close game. So if they continue with that, they'll have a chance. But again, I don't know. I like Nick Sirianni. I just don't think he's a good coach.
Now, one downside though is that Tim Patrick, I don't know how long he is gone.
Mm-hmm.
They do still have Jerry Jeudy, yes, and they do have a couple of guys that they could throw to, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Tim Patrick, the one thing I will say about him up until about now is that he has been there when other guys were, hurt. Has been, I don't want to say he's doing well, but he has been holding the fort.
Yeah, he's been holding it down.
Now it's his turn. He's not going to be playing this week because he's the illness, his own injury.
Right. So it's going to be a big thing.
It is. And then transitioning, we do have about 2 more games left. Sunday Night Football. You have the Chiefs and you have the Raiders. I have the Raiders possibly pulling off an upset. I mean, sorry, not an upset, but they're going to continue. They're going to have a bounce back game.
I'm gonna go with
I
the
will say this though, if it was John Gruden coaching, and I know this kind of does seem a little bit weird, I wouldn't have said that. I would have thought it would be the Chiefs.
I think it'll be the Chiefs regardless. Um, my thing is this defense. Yeah, this defense is horrible. We're gonna twist it. I'm not gonna try to pretend that this defense is good. Offensive, they still have threats, and my whole thing is now the second half of the season. We talked about it earlier. Raiders have this weird thing where second half of the season they just start stalling out, and this is the Chiefs' game to kind of prove that we're back. They need to prove that, hey, look, yeah, our record isn't the sexiest.
I think it's going to be both. It's true for both
Yes,
teams.
that's what I'm saying. Like the Chiefs need to prove that they're still legit, and the Raiders need to be able to prove that, hey, look, this is a divisional game. We're legit. You know, I think they're both going to want to try to prove that they're the better team. They're both going to need a win because they both need the win. We're going to be honest. Both of them really need it, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs. And the sole reason I'm going with the Chiefs is because at the end of the day, with the Chiefs, I have not only do I have the better quarterback, but also I think if the Chiefs go out and just play not to lose, I think they could do enough. Where if you play the Raiders have to have a great game, like top to bottom. They're gonna need a great game to beat the Chiefs, offensively and defensively. When it comes to the Chiefs, they don't really need to do that because again, if you really watch the Raiders, they sometimes they tend to have a cute habit of shooting themselves in the foot. So it's like, as long as the Chiefs play their normal offense, they just won against the Packers, ugly win, but a win nonetheless. Maybe they got some momentum that can carry on to here, but I got the Chiefs. I think it's going to be close, but I got the Chiefs.
And the last game of the week, that would be the 49ers. They have the home game against the Rams. I'm going to have to double check the stat on this, but I think that the 49ers have swept the Rams the past 2 years. So like the last time the Rams had beaten the 49ers was the year they won, where they lost the Super Bowl.
Well, yes. Ever since then, I believe ever since then, they've kind of been down bad. However, and again, this is just me. Look, I was not a fan of the whole Matthew Stafford pickup. I didn't think it was going to work. Every week they've been proving me wrong. They've been gelling great. The defense is a little lacking now for some reason, which maybe it's just, when you're a dominant defense for so long, you kind of get a little tired. I mean, look a few years back with the Bears, they had the best defense for a while. They still have some of those pieces, but it probably seems like they're getting tired of defense, or it's kind of hard to keep that level of success, up. It really is, but the Rams again coming off that loss to the Titans, where even though it was 28-16, the score doesn't seem too bad. It was an ugly loss. It was ugly. Like, if you really watch how it was played, it was an ugly loss. The return of Von Miller, not return, but the acquisition of Von Miller, because I believe Von will be able to play against the Niners. I think that would help. I think that's going to help immensely. But again, I just genuinely believe right now, Rams are a better team. They got the better offense. I think they have the better defense on paper in terms of executing. Obviously, like I said, this Rams defense kind of been a little lacking. But I will say this, with Von Miller coming back, sometimes it just takes that one guy you get and that you're really excited to play with, and he does that one play. Doesn't matter what the play is, bro. It could just be Von Miller pushing a running back out of bounds for like a 1 yard game. and it'll get people excited. So I think that's the impact Von Miller is going to bring. So I got the Rams dominating the 49ers.
I did too.
35 to 17 or something like that.
I have had, as the years progress, I've had less and less and less and less faith with Coach Shanahan. At first, I thought he was going to be a elite coach. He's going to take them all the way, give him a Super Bowl.
Yep.
This. But as time goes on, especially this year, really game one, when they played the Detroit Lions, I started to notice maybe he's not as great as what people thought. When they bench half the players that they did.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan is this dude where you mess up once, you're in the doghouse, and it's all right, I get it. Not every guy can just snap out of it. Some guys just takes more than others. I think he's a solid offensive coordinator. I really do. I think if you put him if you put him on this team as an offensive coordinator and had a different head coach, I think the results would be different. But there's just some guys that are not head coach material. They're just coordinators. Look at Todd Bowles. When he was the head coach of the Jets, people were killing him. Became a defensive coordinator for the Buccaneers, and all of a sudden the guy's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
It's this weird thing.
I'm not saying that Adam Gase is the best guy. I'm not saying
but
that.
He's better as a coordinator.
As a coordinator, he's really not that bad.
No, that's the thing. Just because you're a good coordinator doesn't mean you'll be a great coach. And just because you're a great coach doesn't mean you'll be I genuinely I believe if you get Andy Reid and you put him as an offensive coordinator, I think it'll work. I think it potentially can. That doesn't mean that he should do it. That doesn't mean it should. I think sometimes there's guys who's born to be coordinators. But that's not a bad thing. For instance, Josh McDaniels. He was offense coordinator. He went to Denver, did not work, came back to New England. He's a coordinator. It's okay to be an offensive or defensive coordinator. And I think that's kind of where Kyle Shanahan is. And, the whole thing happened with the Falcons in the Super Bowl. A lot of people kind of gave the benefit of the doubt because they were like, yeah, he probably didn't really care because everyone knew he was going to end up being the head coach of the Niners. So that was the benefit. That's kind of what they gave him. Then the Super Bowl happened, and they ended up losing that. And then ever since then, he's kind of like, we'll be back. They just haven't been back. So, in my opinion, I think eventually, at the end of the season, they're going to set him down. It's like, do you want to still be here? And if he says, yeah, they're going to be like, okay, we'll make you the offensive coordinator. If you don't want that, then I guess this is where we part ways. But in terms of the head coach, we're going to have to find something else.
So that just about wraps up the show. Thank you, Pride, for hopping on. Do you have any final thoughts before it gets to close?
The Bills had a bad week. But don't panic if you're a Bills fan. Give it 2 weeks. Let's see how they bounce back. Go from there. Falcons, that's going to be the upset I got. But even then, if I'm you, do not bet money on it. This week, I wouldn't bet any money at all. I think the only game I would consider betting money would be the Vikings and Chargers. I think that might be the only other game. Because at the end of the day, if you bet on the Cardinals, you're gonna have to put so much money that it's not gonna be worth it. But yeah, that's really it for me, bro. I appreciate you having me on, Nate.
Yeah, I have two things to say.
Say it out.
One, I'm not saying it on the show, but I did actually bring it out in a couple of Facebook posts out there.
Mm-hmm.
I warned everybody, do not bet on the Broncos-Cowboys game. I don't care if you were betting the Broncos. I don't care if you were betting the Cowboys. I don't care. Just don't. And
the
look
thing
what
is-
happened.
Right, and here's the thing. It's easy to say that in hindsight. At the time, nobody was betting that game truly. Like the only people who really bet it are guys who were like in suicide pools where you have to bet every game, you have to pick every game, or like that's really the only people. A lot of people really stayed away from it, and now they kind of regretted it because they were like, oh my god, they won. But at the end of the day, I think not betting on it, was a safe bet because no one really thought that the Broncos would come out the way they did, especially after trading Von Miller. Like a lot of people thought that, oh yeah, the Broncos.
And the Broncos backup. I mean, Von Miller's backup was the only player on that Broncos defense that had a sack.
Yep.
Jonathan Cooper had 2 sacks, and he was the backup for Von Miller.
Let that sink in. That's crazy. That's funny. Like I find things like that funny because it's like you traded for him, and it's crazy because like who knows? Maybe if you had Von Miller in some other world, is it possible that if you guys had Von Miller, you would have lost the game and he had no sacks? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just crazy.
I said yes, maybe, but at the same time, if we had Vaughn on our roster, I feel like Jonathan Cooper would have started anyways because of his injury.
Right.
Because he wasn't healthy. And that's the only reason why I'm not mad about that trade. About that Von Miller trade.
Right.
Otherwise,
on top of that, he was starting to get older, and it was like,
yeah,
he was like old to the point that he got to retire. But it's kind of like time for the Broncos to start, resetting the clock on some pieces, and he was one of those pieces that kind of had to go eventually.
And this has been Nate the Great Bride signing out. I will play some ads real quick, and then after those ads, I'll close this out and into the show. All right.
What did you say?
I said Kobe Bean Bryant has been overrated ever since he passed away.
Now, I'd say they could lose about 4, but I don't see them losing 5. You know what I mean?
All sports, all plays. 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 365, we're making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. 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 365, we're making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.